Now, a word from our sponsor, Medbridge Healthcare. Medbridge Healthcare is a leading provider of sleep lab management services and home sleep apnea testing. Medbridge partners with hospitals, healthcare systems, and medical academic institutions to offer comprehensive, fully integrated services for sleep disorders.
All right, it's time for another show, folks. Hey, appreciate you joining us, but uh, just before we hit record, we had a little laugh, so we're not going to burden you with our dad jokes. But hey, with pre-cows, what's going on today? What do we have going on? It sounds like it's
All
going to be a
right,
fun
Jerry, we do.
episode.
We have a great guest. And this was a little personal for me. It's Dr. Kimberly Hutchison. Dr. Hutchison is the inventor of SomnoSeal. It's a device that can seal from the inside of your mouth. And so I actually came upon this device watching Dr. Allison Cole's Sleep is My Waking Passion podcast. And when I saw that, I thought, I've got to check this out. And, reached out to her after I had worn it several times and had success. And she's coming on the show today to talk about that. It's exciting for me personally. And I think that our techs, our physicians, our followers will enjoy hearing about the product. It's effective, and I'm happy to endorse it. It's a good product.
And this is
Oh,
like two podcasts in one. Allison, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, we want to have you on our show sometime.
Right.
So there's the invitation for you. And then, of course, we have Dr. Hutchinson with us today to talk about SomnoSeal. I'm super excited to hear, anything that can help a patient. And I'm telling you, I'm all about all the tools that we can put in the toolbox to help a patient be adherent to their CPAP therapy or whatever the issue is related to mouth breathing that they need to take care of.
I'm curious about that. There was a book by the name of Breathe. I don't know if you guys read that, but I read that book a while back, and he talks about mouth taping. So, and then, of course, all of you all have seen the YouTube, or not YouTube, the
TikTok.
social media, TikTok or what have
Yeah.
you, people taping their mouths and how much better they are. So I'm very curious to hear what Doc has to say about mouth tape or her product versus mouth tape. So I think that's going to be very interesting to hear.
I agree.
All right, folks, ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Lights out.
Welcome, everyone, once again to another episode of Sleep Tech Talk, the sleep podcast with your hosts and friends, Emerson Kerr, Robert Miller, and me, Dr. Gerald George Mannikarote. Folks, once again, it's a pleasure to be back and bringing you another fantastic episode with an amazing guest. But before we get started, just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to come back and present to you and bring you more content and more fantastic things to listen to. We can't do this without you all. We thank you so much for the likes, the shares, the subscriptions. It's been going through the roof, and we can't thank you enough for that. Please continue to share the podcast with all the sleep friends out there. We also want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you so much to all of them. Because of them, we're able to continue doing this, and a huge shout out to them as well. With that being said, Emerson, what's going on today?
Well, thank you, Jerry. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Dr. Kimberly Hutchison, a distinguished neurologist and sleep medicine specialist with over 20 years of experience. Dr. Hutchison is an associate professor at Oregon Health and Science University, OHSU, in Portland, Oregon. She earned her MD from the University of Kansas and completed her neurology residency at the Medical University of South Carolina, MUSC, followed by fellowship in sleep disorders medicine at Vanderbilt University. Dr. Hutchison has a strong passion for improving patient outcomes through innovative treatments and scientifically backed education. In 2018, she was awarded a Biomedical Innovation Program grant from OHSU to develop the SomnoSeal, a device designed to improve comfort and adherence to CPAP therapy by preventing dry mouth and enhancing nasal breathing. Beyond her work at OHSU, Dr. Hutchison operates a remote neurology sleep medicine clinic on the medically underserved island of Saipan. She is also the founder of KimberlyMD.com, a platform offering extensive educational resources and support for sleep apnea patients. Outside of her professional life, Dr. Hutchison enjoys parenting her 2 teens and breeding golden retrievers. I have one myself, love them. Her guiding motto is do good and enjoy what you do. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kimberly Hutchison. Dr. Hutchison, thank you for joining us today. This is such a treat. So, one of the things we like to do is kind of ask how you got here. Why sleep medicine? What drew you to that fellowship in Nashville, Tennessee? So if you can, take us on that journey before we get to talk about SomnoSeal.
Oh, sure. So I think well, first, thanks for having me. I know everyone says that and people just want to get to the meat of it, but it is great to have these platforms available to share, new things coming down the line in sleep medicine. So thank you. I have always been fascinated with the brain. So starting in high school, I loved the brain. I loved behavior, figuring out why we're doing the things we're doing. How to manipulate that has always been something that's fascinated me. So when I got into medical school and then residency, I was throwing around psychiatry a little bit, but I really didn't appreciate managing primary psychiatric illness. So I gravitated towards neurology because I liked figuring out more about the underpinnings of brain function. And I loved neurology, but I still had this interest in sort of behavior as well as levels of consciousness and sort of the manipulation thereof levels of consciousness. And so once I saw a few sleep patients and I realized how the profound impact that you can have by treating their sleep disorder and how that positively impacts all the rest of neurology, not to mention many other facets of medicine, that just stole my heart at that point. I was very interested in being able to create that level of impact that really made this dramatic improvement for, I take care of patients with Parkinson's, MS, dementia, migraines, all of that is improved by improving sleep. So it's a great combo to do sleep medicine and neurology, I think. And then I guess the funniest thing anyone ever told me was, oh yeah, sleep medicine's the dermatology of neurology. Come on. And I thought, oh, that's funny. That's probably going to piss a lot of people off when they hear that, but it's enjoyable to do sort of this combination.
That's a great story. I'd never heard that about sleep and neurology, but that's perfect. I could see how that would really ruffle some feathers.
Exactly.
So, one of the ways I found out about you was watching Dr. Allison Cole's webinar or podcast that you did with her, and you have a product called the SomnoSeal. And so I ordered it. I thought, you know what? I have a dry mouth. I am really frustrated. And I wanted to see if this thing would work, this gadget. It turns out to be a little more than a gadget. It's quite an effective product. So tell us, our audience, about it. What made you want to develop something like this? As a neurologist, that doesn't really seem intuitive. But what drew you to wanting to fix this problem? And then in particular, why the design you came up with?
Sure. So I've always been a bit of an entrepreneur at heart. And so solving problems and figuring out new ways to reach people and get results is sort of part of my DNA. So after years and years, I'm taking care of sleep patients, thousands of sleep patients over the last 20 years. And I'm starting people on CPAP, and time again, they're coming in for their, first follow-up visit, and they're trying to use their machine, but they are mouth breathing. And whether or not they were habitual mouth breathers or they have nasal congestion and mouth breathe, or for a lot of people, it's just something that they've learned to do, or the CPAP itself, maybe the pressure might be blowing, their mouth open to create some oral venting. So patients would be suffering with that issue, but they wouldn't be comfortable with the full face mask. And I think, most people in sleep know that nasal masks are better for patients' compliance. They're more comfortable. It's better to breathe through the device that was designed for breathing, our nose. So I'm a huge nasal breathing fan, and that tends to work better for patients anyway, but they wouldn't be able to use it because of this dry mouth and leaks. But they wouldn't, and they didn't want to use the full face mask, and they were trying the chin straps, but chin straps don't always work fully. They don't actually seal the mouth. So people get this sort of sputtering and saliva coming out that's uncomfortable. It also can pull the chin backwards a little bit, and that can worsen their sleep apnea and cause a sense of claustrophobia. You know, they've got one more thing that's around their head and they can't move. And so we were stuck. I think, you know, to some degree, we still are stuck. We're trying to, you know, so this is a new device to sort of solve this sort of age-old problem. And one day I had a patient come in that was struggling so much with this, she strapped a maxi pad over her mouth to try to, you know, prevent her mouth from breathing. Another person was putting, you know, duct tape and thought, oh, I'm using the dollar store duct tape because it doesn't pull my lips off when I take it off in the morning. And so now my question is, what could be the problem for me swallowing all of the chemicals off of the dollar store duct tape? You know, that was her question to me as her doctor, was this, like, you know, chemicals from the dollar store duct tape. So people were going to extreme measures. And so I thought there's got to be a better way. And about that time, there was this Biomedical Innovation Program grant that was being, you know, presented at our faculty meeting. And so I thought, hey, what the heck? My daughter decided to not play volleyball. I wasn't going to be the coach there that year. So I thought, with this little opening, I'll try to get one of these grants. And of course, that's the first domino. You don't think that much of it at the first, you know, moment when you're going for that grant. But then I got it, and that started the development of working with some engineers, getting some testers together. We tried different designs. We actually have about 10 different designs of devices that might solve this issue. But we went with the simplest one first to see, hey, let's see if we can get the simple one, and then we can you know, improve it from there. So this is what it looks like. So it's the SomnoSeal. It's the soft, you know, flexible, biocompatible silicone material. And the unique part of it is that it sits inside the mouth. And as soon, if I ever shut up, I'll put it in there for you to try, but to see what it looks like. But it goes inside the mouth so that if it allows your jaw to maintain a slightly relaxed position. And I think that's really one of its key features, because it's more comfortable for the jaw, so it's not going to cause the TMJ, and it doesn't cause that sense of claustrophobia, because if your mouth opens a little bit, then it's still blocking the air from coming out. If your mouth opens a lot, you know, some of those really, you know, fly catching mouth breathers, that, you know, it may have a tendency to fall out. And so when that happens, I do include in the starter kit for the SomnoSeal a pack of just like the X style mouth tape that is not meant to seal the mouth, but it's just meant to help keep the SomnoSeal in place. And so we have three different sizes. Yeah.
So real quick about the mouth tape, not
Yes.
to interrupt, because it's fascinating. So first, folks out there, if you're listening on the podcast, you have to switch over to YouTube to see what she is demonstrating. So that's number one. Number two, you talked about mouth tape right now, and that seems to be a thing. You have many different people that are not sleep specialists or have zero sleep education that are selling mouth tape now. How is yours different from that?
Are you a sleep tech looking for new opportunities? Well, Medbridge Healthcare is one of the largest employers of sleep technologists, and they are growing. If you are a sleep technologist interested in a new position, potential paid relocation, or looking for a career advancement, consider a career with Medbridge Healthcare. Now back to the show.
Several reasons. I mean, how is my mouth tape different, or how is the SomnoSeal different?
A little of both, please.
So the SomnoSeal is promoting nasal breathing, eliminating oral venting from a completely different mechanism, because it's from inside your mouth. And so it's low profile, it's more comfortable, it's reusable. I really wanted to make something that was affordable and easy to reuse. So that's, it's different in many ways. It's also compatible with facial hair. It's not going to rip any of your lips off. It doesn't have adhesive with it. And then so it does work on its own for most people that are using it. But if your mouth has a tendency to really gape when you're sleeping, then it will fall out. The next version will probably have a modular piece to include it, secure it to your teeth. But the simplest version does work for most people. However, if it is not staying in place, then we do include this mouth tape that's just the X style, so it's not like the big, I won't name any names, but the scary tape that's covering the whole mouth. It's just to help keep your mouth more, keep the SomnoSeal more secure in your mouth. So I'll demonstrate. So it has a top and a bottom. It's, again, very soft and flexible. We worked hard on finding just the right material for the SomnoSeal. And we didn't want anyone to, we wanted to create multiple sizes because they're different mouth sizes, but the size also depends a little bit on how far your mouth opens, what size you would need. So
Oh, wow. That's really nice. Look at that.
yeah, so it sits inside, so it's got a very low profile.
It's
Very
comfortable.
unobtrusive.
It's
Mhm.
And
very
you've used it.
unobtrusive. I've been using it, yeah, because what I was experiencing was an incredibly dry mouth, and I've been wearing CPAP for 20 years. So this kind of came from out of nowhere for me and was very frustrating because, you would think this would happen early rather than 20 years later. And here I am looking for a solution like this and, came upon the SomnoSeal, and it works fantastic because it creates that back pressure on your mouth. So it seals from the inside and you're not having to have that external force that can manipulate the jaw, cause some jaw pain that some people might have. And as Dr. Hutchins has said, if you begin to really pull on it, you can worsen the sleep apnea. So for me, it worked exactly like she demonstrated it.
So I do think it's interesting that, if you were to go back several years, no one even had heard of mouth taping, not really to any significant degree. And some crazy social media trends. I know you know what I'm talking about, the TikTok mouth taping, thing that happened, I guess within the last year. I mean, that sort of has, set a nice stage for you to bring a clinical grade solution to the market and do it, potentially at scale. And you actually mentioned something before we started the podcast where you talked about the potential of not using a chin strap and using the SomnoSeal in place of that. I think that's a fantastic solution. Chin straps were sort of a means to an end versus a really good solution for patients who had mouth breathing issues, because I know the industry probably has floated away from the use of chin straps and patients just get a full face mask. And I personally detest full face. Sorry to all the manufacturers, but I feel like a nasal mask is more natural for a patient, and anything you can do to keep a patient on a nasal mask, I'm certainly a fan.
Yeah, I could not agree with that more. And I think that a lot of times people setting patients up on CPAP, they just ask one question at the beginning: are you a mouth breather? And if someone thinks about it, which 50% of people will say yes, so then they say, okay, you need a full face mask. And I believe that decision right there is responsible for a lot of the non-adherence that we have in the CPAP world. And if we could get people, all the new stuff coming out and the slick stuff, it's nasal, it's small, it's look how, low profile this is. And people maybe see that and think, oh yeah, that I could maybe tolerate that. Like, those are really good for our industry. However, when they go to actually get it, if they say they breathe through their mouth, then they get the full face mask and then it leaks, they're not comfortable. And then they say, okay, I can't do this. So we want to have solutions that work, and we need to educate people, respiratory therapists, technicians, to help understand that there are solutions that can help people be successful with nasal masks. And even if people think they can't breathe through their nose, the CPAP pressure will usually get through there. And so if we can keep the mouth shut, then they likely may be successful. So I promote nasal masks for sure, as well as, I think sleep labs can benefit from the SomnoSeal, because when they have, if they're fitting a patient to different masks when they're falling asleep, they tend to, if they're a mouth breather, they tend to want to start them on a full face mask. Again, setting them up for CPAP failure. Whereas if we could start them on a nose mask, but then if they start having oral venting, then they don't want to go in, wake them up, strap on a big, chin strap, or get them set up with a different mask. With the SomnoSeal, they could just go in, pop the SomnoSeal in, and hopefully it would be a lot disruptive to the patient and the overall sleep study. So I also want to get the word out to technicians, because I think this could be really beneficial in sleep labs, and it can be, autoclaved and cleaned and reused as well.
What about oral appliance therapy? I spent about a year working in that space, and when you're fitting someone for an oral appliance, there's always going to be a little vertical opening, to make the fit work and to be effective. Have you had any experience using SomnoSeal with oral appliances?
Yes, I have. And that, some of my best customers / promoters for SomnoSeal have actually been sleep dentists. And so, also myofunctional therapists, people that are working with patients to improve nose breathing. Exactly that, because of some of the air and the dry mouth that happens when people have the oral appliance in place. And so the SomnoSeal sits just right in front of the oral appliance to block that air from coming out. So again, it's an alternative to using mouth tape that doesn't require adhesive and is a reusable solution. But yes, definitely an oral appliance accessory.
So today, I'm assuming that SomnoSeal is not covered by insurance.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a consumer product, and is a nasal breathing trainer. So it's not solving any, medical problem at this point. It is helping people to be successful at breathing through their nose, which allows them to be successful with their other therapy options, as well as just decrease the dry mouth that's associated with a lot of the CPAP therapy. There is also a market for just the nose breathing enthusiast. So high performance athletes, people that are awake and they want to use the SomnoSeal instead of mouth tape for, really any reason.
And TikTok influencers.
I was just going to say that. Yes.
Exactly. I know.
Yes.
I need
Always
to get
important.
to
Right. I mean,
find those people.
Yes.
Yeah, the granola
Actually, I was thinking
people.
of a marketing campaign while you've been talking, and my TikTok marketing campaign would be all the inappropriate places to have mouth tape, or to have your mouth sealed, and persons in different locations. So anyway,
Uh-huh.
I work in marketing, and
That's
I
right.
can come
Let's
up with
talk.
a campaign for you. We'd go viral.
Well, in regards to going viral, we are going viral over time. So, Kim, I hate to close the topic, but it's been fascinating. But we are out of time. Anything else to add? Where could people get more information about the product, about you?
Yeah, well, my goal is to help people reach their full potential. So that is through better quality sleep, and I like solving problems. So part of this is this sort of, device, which is the SomnoSeal, but I also have a website that has a lot of CPAP education and resources for patients. I have a CPAP 101 course. I'm trying to get people to learn more about the process and how to be successful with CPAP. So I have a lot of different interests, and if you do as well, reach out to me. I'm always open to hear from people and network in this industry. So I really appreciate what you all are doing, and having these platforms is super important for our field. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. And we'll have that information in the show notes for everybody.
Great.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us. And everybody out there, we sincerely appreciate you joining us on the show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Most importantly, thank you so much for all the shares. Shout out once again to our sponsors. We appreciate them. We can't do this without them. And because of them, continue to grow. And until next time, we tell everybody, lights on.
All right, folks, a quick message from our sponsors, React Health. React Health, formerly 3B Medical, a leading provider of sleep diagnostic, and respiratory products. Before we go, we would like to thank our sponsor, Medbridge Healthcare. Medbridge Healthcare is developing innovative inpatient, post-discharge, and population health programs to screen comorbid conditions, diagnose, and treat sleep disorders. Learn more about their innovative solutions and career opportunities at medbridgehealthcare.com. Once again, you can learn more about their innovative solutions and career opportunities at medbridgehealthcare.com.
All right, another show over. It's time for some post-cals. Robert, this time I got it right.
Great job.
Yeah, thank
Nice
you.
work, man.
Hey, thank you. But hey, on a realistic note, what did you guys think?
Well,
Emerson, you
I
got.
think, go ahead, Robert. You can jump in
Well,
first this time.
hey, I'm telling you, I think I'm a fan now. I had never considered, and by the way, I think I want to start personally selling SomnoSeal on the side because I think there's a huge market for the SomnoSeal product. But you know, being a sleep tech and potentially eliminating the issue of mouth breathing while the patient's in the lab for titration. I mean, holy smokes, that's a tool that we don't really have today. I know that in reality, the world is, hey, just slap a full face mask on the patient, and that's the solution. But I know that we can do better, and now we have a solution to help us
Right.
do that.
I think we're also learning, though, if you follow a lot of clinicians, more and more are really wanting, and particularly physicians, are not wanting to use full face masks, period. And I think there's some evidence that supports that. But even if that isn't the case, I mean, some people simply have to, having a solution like this, because its ability to seal, and she demonstrated it perfectly, so we don't have to rehash that, but the way it's able to seal from inside the mouth, to your point, instead of outside, instead of manipulating the jaw and doing these things, it just makes sleep even worse. I mean, just the idea that you're going to have the mask, the chin strap, and whatever else, maybe even, an eye mask on top of it to wrap your head up so you can sleep is horrible. And so this is another thing that I think even does something else. It helps make sleep normal. And I think that's one of the things, in some of the things we've all sold over the years is how do we normalize the therapy that somebody has? And I think in a lot of ways, SomnoSeal does that, whether it's an oral appliance where you're able to put it right over, the oral appliance device or underneath the mask or just in the mouth, with a nasal mask on, you're able to do so much with this, and it normalizes the therapy instead of them having something else outside their body that makes them uncomfortable, makes them feel unattractive. Yeah, it's dark in the room, but you don't really want something else on your face when you fall asleep. And I think SomnoSeal helps normalize the therapy for the patient, along with keeping that mouth moist. And of course, when we start talking about dry mouth, that opens up a whole can of worms, around tooth decay and other problems that can happen with that. So incredible product. I can't tell you how happy I am that we had her on the show today.
What I think is really cool is the fact that this is developed by a neurologist. It's not somebody that took like she said, dollar store duct tape and then reworked it and put their name on it, and suddenly it's influencer tape. This has actual research. It came from a grant, which you don't get grants just like that to develop products. People actually want real research and they want things behind it. And this comes from somebody who actually went to college, went to medical school, and went through all the processes required for testing in order to make something like this. So I'm really excited about this product. I'm looking forward to trying it out as well.
I hadn't considered the issue of with the TikTok trend of mouth taping. the potential for someone to use a toxic tape or toxic materials, or even feminine hygiene products, like you mentioned, to keep their mouth closed during the nighttime. So it's uh, to know that there is a clinical grade solution, I think is absolutely important. And I hope that anyone who uses CPAP will hear our podcast and will order a SomnoSeal.
Well, I mean, if you just, I mean, for our listeners, it's so easy to go online right now. I've got it right in front of me. I'm talking about a product that costs $19.95. I mean, how incredible is that? That's affordable for most of your patients. It's going to help them succeed with therapy. If that's one thing I know the three of us are passionate about on this show, whether it's sleep navigation or products, we want our patients to succeed. And if this can help somebody get over that threshold of whatever it is that's making them open their mouth in their sleep. It could be, age, it's REM, it's pressure, it's a whole host of things, that could be influencing that. This is a great product to help them with that. And go to SomnoSeal.com and take a peek at it and see about that product.
That's a strong endorsement from the Sleep
It
Tech
is.
Talk
I usually
team.
don't do that, but I'm all in.
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly. Well, guys, I think that's a good place to stop. And folks out there, until next time, thank you and cheers.